Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Today we're gonna do a quick sketchbook tour, plus some storytelling from my recent Hanoi workshop with some sketches. Let's go. The journey began not with a fanfare, but with a quiet efficiency of departure. Aboard TR 300, Scoot's yellow liveried vessel, whimsically named Captain Yellow, Lena, Agnes, and I left the tarmac at 10 past 10. No announcements, no fuss, just the soft hum of engines and the hush of anticipation. Others took to the skies by different routes. JZL from Malaysia flew with MES. The rest had boarded Singapore Airlines already well ahead. Yet fate, or perhaps the invisible choreography of air traffic, had a different design. Of all the flights bound for Hanoi that day, ours was the last to arrive, and in that quiet final descent, as the clouds parted to reveal the shimmer of waking city, the journey truly began. We landed gently as though the city itself were extending a careful hand in welcome. Our first stop, the Silk Path Hotel. It's modest in stature but full of charm. Nestled within the old quarters of Hanoi, it stood like a well-worn bookmark in the pages of history. One by one we gathered, the full company now assembled, 8 travelers bound by ink, paper, and curiosity. With appetites sharpened by the journey, we made our way to Bun Cha Dakim, a culinary treasure I was delighted to introduce to some for the very first time. This humble eatery bore its recognition with pride. The scarlet mark of Michelin's 2023 selection unfurled for all to see. The charcoal sizzled, the air danced with a scent of grilled pork and sweetened broth. We ate, we smiled, and with bellies full and spirits lifted, we readied our tools, pencil, pens, and palettes for the first sketch of our Hanoi journey. We strolled towards the statue of Li Tai To, sentinel of the past, standing watch beside the tranquil waters of Hong Kim Lake. The sun filtered gently through the trees, casting dappled shadows over stone and sketchbook alike. I began a quiet demonstration, the first strokes, the first lines, while James Leong, the seasoned hand among us, offered guidance with quiet assurance. And then a beautiful stillness fell. Each of them, beginners and old friends to the craft alike, sank into the act of seeing, not merely looking, but seeing. The rustle of paper, the hush of concentration, it was in its own way a kind of reverence. When the sketching ended, something remarkable emerged. A few among us who had never before attempted to draw looked at their work with wonder, not quite believing what their hands had produced. I was pleased, they were too. The first marks had been made, and something within them had shifted. We wandered through the winding lanes of the old quarter, letting our feet learn the rhythm of the place, a gentle rehearsal for the days ahead when these streets would become familiar companions. Around the lake, life unfolded in layers, honking scooters, sudden bursts of laughter, the quiet shuffle of an old man with a basket of limes. We continued onward past moss-covered walls and lantern-strung alleyways until we reached the grand presence of the Opera House. It stood proud, a colonial relic amid a landscape of contrast. Along the way, we passed street vendors hunched over charcoal fires, and not far off, the gleam of luxury boutiques with names known the world over. Old and new, humble and ornate, all coexisting in the same breath. It was, in every sense, fascinating. As dusk settled over Hanoi, we made our way to Quan An Ngon, a name that in Vietnamese simply means delicious restaurant. And indeed, it lives up to that modest claim. Set within a charming colonial villa on Pan Boi Chao Street, it brings together the street food of Vietnam north, central, and south beneath one roof. A curated taste of tradition served with grace. To our surprise, one among us, Chen, was already acquainted with the place, a quiet smile played on his face, the familiarity of a favorite dish perhaps, or a memory rekindled. We ate beneath soft lantern light, the air fragrant with grilled lemongrass and fresh herbs. Each plate was a journey, crisp banzio, delicate spring roast, the deep comfort of fur, and then the hearts of full, feet growing weary, we returned to the Silk Path Hotel. The day had offered its welcome. The city had begun to speak. We listened, and now we rested. Morning arrived with a soft haze, and with it a new rhythm. I gathered the group for a simple exercise I called icon hunting, the art of capturing small, telling moments in sketch form. Not sweeping scenes, but everyday details, a lantern, a kettle, a sloping rooftop, little truths waiting to be seen. Then we set out, joined by Arthur. Arthur was not a man of many words. His English was sharp and efficient, his face etched with stories he didn't care to tell. He moved through the world without flourish, shaped by what life had taught him to endure. Our first stop, Tran Quoc Pagoda. Ancient and serene, it sat quietly on the edge of West Lake. The skyline here didn't shout, it broke gently into temple tears and drifting birds. Icons surrounded us, not calling out, but simply there, waiting for eyes willing to notice. Next, we visited a local workshop where artisans shaped lacquerware, a layer by patient layer, tradition sealed beneath each glossy surface. The scent of resin lingered in the air, and every brushstroke told a story of craft passed down through generations. From there, we moved to the Museum of Ethnology, a quiet trove of Vietnam's many cultures. I found a corner and began to sketch a few icons of my own: woven baskets, ceremonial mask, the curve of the stilt roof. By midday, we arrived at Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum. It was closed, but that didn't matter. We stood quietly, taking in the solemn symmetry of stone and space, a monument not just to a man, but to a nation's memory. Just a short walk from the mausoleum stood the one pillar pagoda, delicate, almost dreamlike, rising from a pond like a lotus in bloom. We lingered there, sketchbooks open, some of us trying to capture its quiet balance and grace. I made a quick sketch myself, a simple study of form and reflection and shadows, a small moment preserved in ink. Lunch followed at a place not worth remembering for its food, but on the wall, a mural caught our eye. It became the real meal. We fell into discussions, proportions, compositions, the weight of lines, and how they carried meaning. What worked, what faltered, and why. It was lively, thoughtful, and unexpected. And in that way, the mural redeemed the meal. Art had found its way to the table. Our next stop was the Temple of Literature, a sanctuary of learning founded in 1070 and dedicated to Confucius, once Vietnam's first national university. It remains a place where scholars walked, thought, and aspired. The courtyards echoed with centuries of quiet pursuit. I played the tourist here mostly, wandering through stone gateways and calligraphy lined halls. But I did pause to sketch one of the stone lions, its posture both noble and watchful. Just a simple ink outline, enough to remember it by. We continued on to Maison Centrale, a name that belies its weight. Once a prison built by the French, it later held American POWs during the Vietnam War. The air inside was heavy with memory, iron doors, stone cells, and the quiet ache of stories too often repeated in places of conflict. From there, we turned towards something gentler, the famed water puppet theatre. While waiting for our time slot, we sat by the lake, sipping coffee, letting the hum of Hanoi return us to the present. When the show began, it was a revelation. Water puppetry, a moi roi nook. It's a uniquely Vietnamese art form born over 1,000 years ago in the flooded rice fields of the Red River Delta. In those early days, farmers would gather to watch as puppets dance across the water's surface, bringing laughter and folklore to life. Today, the tradition continues, with modern refinement but ancient roots. The stage is a pool of water. Behind a screen, puppeteers stand waist deep unseen, using long bamboo rods and strings hidden beneath the surface to control the lacquered wooden figures. There are no visible hands, only movements. A phoenix flutters, a dragon spits fire, a fisherman hauls in his catch. The stories are simple, often humorous, drawn from village life and old legends. A tale of star-crossed lovers, a buffalo wrestling with a tiger, or a comical frog caught. Accompanied by traditional instruments and live singing, it becomes not just theatre, but ritual. It was whimsical and impressive, a reminder that even the most humble traditions, when nurtured across time, can stir both joy and wonder. A fitting close to a day of contrasts, solemn, thoughtful, and now joyfully animated. All throughout the city, street food vendors appeared like punctuation marks, small, vivid notes in Hanoi's ongoing symphony. A woman crouched beside a bubbling pot, a man fanning charcoal over skewers of meat, a bicycle cart stacked high with fresh herbs. I found myself drawn to them not just for the scent of grilled sweetness or the clatter of bowls, but for the shapes, the postures, the quiet theatre of it all. They were perfect subjects. I loved sketching them. These fleeting everyday moments that said so much without saying a word. There are so many stories, far more than I have time to tell. But perhaps it's better that way. Instead, I shall let the sketchbook speak. As its pages turn, you will find glimpses of statues rendered in pen and watercolor, scenes from water puppet theatre drawn later from photos and memory, quiet corners of the temple of literature revisited through line and shadow, and of course, more street food, always street food, captured in fleeting strokes before it vanished into steam. Each sketched a pause, each page a small act of remembering. Still, some stories must be told. On the third evening, we made our way to the famed Hanoi train street, a place of whispers and warnings, said to be on the verge of closure by government decree. Still, we walked there, weaving through alleyways until we found a seat, or something like a seat, mere inches from the tracks. We ordered food and drinks, balancing plates on narrow ledges. Some began to sketch their pencils or pen moving with a strange calm amid the anticipation. And then we waited. When the train came, it did not announce itself gently. It roared. Steel thundered past us with inches to spare, close enough to feel the wind peel back your breath. A blur of light and force, and for a moment the world narrowed to a single unstoppable motion. It was hair-raising experience. And as many of you know, I no longer have hair. Even though it was my second time, this one felt different, closer, louder, somehow more real. A moment of thrill, of absurdity, of raw, unforgettable joy. Well, then, I'll best bring this journey to a close. There are more stories, of course, there always are. Tales of bird droppings landing squarely on James Leong's sketch. A mark, some might say, of curious fortune, and of me stumbling upon a street-side artisan who, with the swift cuts of a blade, carved a stem of my Jack Russell Cassie, her likeness now pressed in red ink beside my name. But those will have to wait, or never. For now, I'll let the sketchbook take over. Its pages will turn quietly one by one, each line a fragment of memory. Until the next time, stay safe wherever you are. Keep looking for stories, for shapes, for wonder. They're always there if you pause long enough to see. Bye.